Hey guys, welcome back to the Behaviour Revolution, and today we're going to talk about the end of the world, Yahusha's return, which we believe is very, very soon, like could happen now. We believe Yahusha stood up, ready to come back. We talked about the narrow path of deliverance and how to become spiritual, how to become delivered from this evil flesh self that we are in, the corrupt seed that controls us our whole life. You can be delivered of it. You can be forgiven, washed, clean, and become spiritual through his baptism of spirit and fire. Then we did a video about the new Jerusalem, new heaven and earth, and the eternal life. I mean, this is where he is. He lives in another dimension, and yet we have direct access to him. So he is the source. He is the focus. He is the culmination. This wedding feast that's going to happen is going to be all about love. Do you want to experience that? Do you want to know him? Do you want to know what rivers of living water gushing from you feels like? You know, where is this love found? You've got to go through this narrow gate vein. That's where you'll find him. That's where the love is. Yahusha is the only place you will find real, true, deep love and affection and connection. So I want to take you through the study today called Yahusha is about to return. So we click on this one here, right underneath the vein picture there. Yahusha is about to return. Daniel's 70-week prophecy is ending. There was a prophecy set out right back in Daniel, declaring that what we're living right now is meant to happen and that it's about to end. The clock is about to strike midnight. Yahusha is about to return. This whole study is about recognizing where we believe we are on the prophetic timeline. Daniel gives us the 70-week framework. Revelation reveals the final 3.5-year climax. And Yahusha himself told us what the world would look like as his return approaches. The message is simple. The signs are intensifying. The prophetic week is reaching its conclusion, and Yahusha is about to return. Look at the world. Look at everything people are saying and doing and behaving. Look at the abomination and the cruelty and the violence. They're not natural disasters. They're judgments happening on the world. Yahusha prophesied all this would happen. He did it through Jeremiah. He did it through Daniel. He did it through John. Yahusha is about to return. 70th week, the final 3.5 years and the signs of the end. Global catastrophes are escalating. Daniel 9 reveals a 70-week prophecy. Yahusha fulfilled the first half of the final week, and Revelation reveals the last 3.5 years. The climax ends with Yahusha returning. Now, we've done other studies that go into this a lot more in depth, but you can see here just on the chart here, Daniel 9 reveals there's going to be a 70-week prophecy. And between here and here, we've got 69 weeks. So that leaves 1 week left. And Yahusha was cut off in the middle of that week, which leaves half a week, which is 3.5 years. We'll go into this a bit more. 3.5 years that nothing's happened. No one knows where is it, what's going on. Nothing's been fulfilled in it. It's being fulfilled right now. Yeah? Why this matters so much. The signs of the end are intensifying. Wars and rumors of wars. Nations are raging and instability is spreading. Earthquakes, floods, fires, famines. Creation is groaning under escalating catastrophes. Pestilence, fear, distress. Populations are shaken by uncertainty and crisis. Take a look at the news. Take a look at what's going on in the earth. Lawlessness, hatred, deception. Love grows cold as rebellion increases. Everything Yahusha's word declares is wrong is being lifted up and behaved and celebrated as right, and vice versa. Matthew 24, birth pains. Yahusha warned these signs would intensify before his return. The world is not stabilizing. It is moving towards a prophetic climax. So we know the end of the story. We know what's going to happen. We saw it in our last video about Yahusha's return and the New Jerusalem. So we know what's going to happen. But I want to talk about this little 3.5 years, and what's going on in that. Before Daniel receives the prophecy of the 70 weeks, Jeremiah had already prophesied that Judah would experience 70 years of Babylonian captivity because of rebellion, idolatry, and neglect. They neglected the land Sabbaths. Daniel later read Jeremiah's prophecy and realized that those 70 years were coming to their conclusion. That understanding became the background for the much larger prophetic revelation Gabriel was about to give him. So, what's happening? Jeremiah decreed that there would be 70 weeks of captivity because they were neglecting the land. So you got the timeline here. 70 land Sabbaths neglected. Israel neglected the land Sabbaths, resting, not only resting your body every seventh day back then, but you had to rest the land every 7 years, every Shemitah cycle, every cycle of weeks, which was a Shemitah cycle, every 7 years you're supposed to rest the land. They weren't doing it. They neglected it for 70 years. So 7 lots of 70 is 490 years of neglect. Now they've been in the land through Joshua and Caleb. They'd been in the land for over 800 years. And for 490 of those years, they had not stuff your law, stuff your covenant, stuff your Torah, stuff all of it. We're doing what we want to do. So because of that, Jeremiah prophesied there would be destruction, and Jerusalem was destroyed. Judgment fell because of rebellion, idolatry, and corruption, 606 BC. And 70 years of captivity. The 10 northern tribes were taken to Assyrian captivity before this, but the main focus here is Judah was exiled. These were the last 2 tribes down the bottom there. They were taken into exile to Babylon for 70 years to fulfill Alahim's word through Jeremiah. Jeremiah said it would happen for 70 years. Now, over 70 years later, it's closer to 100, Daniel's reading Jeremiah's scrolls, because Daniel was an old man by now. He'd spent most of his life serving King Nebuchadnezzar's courts, and now Babylon had been taken over by Medo-Persia, so he was serving under King Darius, and he was reading these scrolls, and he's going, hang on, 70 years, that's already passed. And there's no inclination or signs anywhere that anything's changing. What's going on? So he started talking and making things happen. What's going on? Jeremiah explains the captivity. Daniel explains what comes next. So what does Daniel do? He starts praying, because he can't make anything happen himself. The wheels were in motion. Israel was in captivity, and for the most part, they didn't even care. They'd assimilated into Babylonian captivity. And they'd made lives and homes and farms, and they weren't in the slavery kind of whipping and beating and making bricks kind of slavery. They just assimilated into Babylonian lifestyle. They'd lost their identity and they were quite content. So even when they did go back, most of them didn't even go. They didn't care. So anyway, Daniel's reading these scrolls, and Daniel passionately loved Alahim, so he wanted to know what's going on. 70-year prophecy, and 70 years has passed. So Daniel prays and Gabriel answers. And this is all in Daniel 9 if you want to read it. This opens the prophetic timeline. Daniel's reading. Daniel reads Jeremiah and understood the 70 years. Yep. Daniel prayed. He confessed the sins of the people and sought mercy. This whole captivity happened because of Israel's sins. So he starts interceding and praying for his nation, because he loved his people and he wanted to get back to the temple era. They wanted to get back to their land so they could worship properly. They were a people without any kind of animal sacrifice, so they had no forgiveness, no way to feel atoned for their sins and lifestyle. So in Babylon, they just had synagogues, this fake system, which the rabbis and, it became a religion. So the decree is revealed. 70 weeks were decreed for Daniel's people and the set-apart city. 70 weeks now. Okay? This comes through Daniel. In Jeremiah it says, the whole land shall be desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king 70 years. What must accomplish in these 70 weeks? 70 weeks must happen for your people until the end of all things and restoration. What must happen in these 70 weeks? Rebellion must be restrained. This is all in Daniel 9. Finish the sin. Sin will be finished. Purify corruption. Looking a bit familiar to the vein here, isn't it? Blood, water. Bring everlasting righteousness. Well, you can't do that unless you become spiritual. Seal a vision and prophecy. Fulfill it, seal it, Anoint the most set apart. Who's that? What's that? So all these things must happen. And as I said, it's all listed in Daniel 9, but I'm sort of glossing over so we can get through. This is like a revision, a summary. The prophecy is not just random history. It points to Messiah and the completion of deliverance. There's only one being, and he's got to be Yahusha, who can do all this. This can't be a nation. This can't be anything that happened in history. This has got to be Yahusha himself, a man. Yeah. So anyway, Daniel's prophecy says 70 weeks will happen. All this has to happen in 70 weeks. All this here. These 6 things have to happen in 70 weeks. So when did it start? When will it finish? The 70 weeks are understood as weeks of years, because it's a Shemitah cycle, giving a total of 490 prophetic years. The first 69 weeks equal 483 years, because you've got to times it by 7, and run from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem all the way to Messiah the Prince. The important point is that the prophetic countdown is deliberately leading towards Yahusha, showing that he is the central figure in Daniel's prophecy. So we're seeing here how it's counted. Yeah? So the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, which they did, Ezra oversaw that, and Nehemiah, they oversaw the rebuilding. So right from back here, and as I said, you can go into this in more detail if you want, but I don't want to spend any time in this area here. All the knowledgeable people want to spend all their time, who overcame who and who conquered who, and when did the Greeks come in and when did the Romans come in, and this, that, and they're arguing about a year and a dot and a tittle, and they're arguing about all this stuff. Because we know Yahusha came. So we don't need to worry about the first 69 weeks of the prophecy, do we? We only need to worry about the last one. Yeah, the first 69 weeks moved precisely towards Yahusha. He came, he saw, he conquered. He was cut off in the middle of the week. So I'm not going to waste any time on all these 69 weeks. We know what happened. It all got rebuilt as a backdrop for Yahusha to arrive. Daniel's statue and world events. Daniel was also shown the great sequence of world empires represented by the statue: Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Every empire rises, dominates for a season, and eventually falls. Eventually they fall. They all fall eventually, because human kingdoms are temporary. Keep that in mind today. Everything you see is temporary. It's going to fall. It's already crumbling. The final outcome of prophecy is not another human empire. It is the everlasting reigning kingdom of Yahusha Alahim. So we see that Babylon was taken over by Medo-Persia, then it was taken over by Greece, then it was taken over by Rome. Rome was in existence and in reign and rule in the backdrop of Yahusha arriving. So these are the past empires, and we're still in this empire here. Rome has kind of crumbled and fallen, but it's split off. When you look at this statue here, it's all a mixture, a mishmash. Some people think it's Rome, some people think it's over there, and some people think it's over here, but it's all a mixture, iron and clay. And who's behind it is a real mystery. It's not the people you'd think it is. It's Israel. It's the wicked whore, ex-wife Israel. So, as I said, I don't want to waste any time with the first 69 weeks because it's already been and gone. Let's get into the last week, the 70th week. Messiah the Prince arrives. After the 69 prophetic weeks, Messiah the Prince arrives. This is when Yahusha arrived, when Yahuah left his throne, metamorphed into human flesh, and Mary was told by the angel, call his name Yahusha, for he will be your deliverance. I am your deliverance. That's what Yahusha means. So Yahuah became Yahusha. Yeah? Messiah the Prince arrives after 69 weeks, and Yahusha ministers for approximately 3.5 years. Okay, so Yahusha arrives. This is the 70th week. Got this? The 70th week. And a week is 7 years. Got that? This is the 70th week of Daniel's 70-week prophecy, and the final week, the 70th week, is 7 years. Got it? Yahusha ministers for 3.5 of those years. That's half. All right? He teaches, heals, announces the reign of Alahim, and then is impaled and cut off in the middle of the final prophetic week. His death fulfills the meaning of the sacrifices and offerings, completing the first half of Daniel's 70th week. He declared from the torture stake, it is finished. All right? So, there's some amazing visuals here. Let's have a look at it. After 69 weeks, Yahusha arrives. He ministers for 3.5 years. He rides into Jerusalem. He is impaled and cut off midweek. His death brings the sacrifice and offerings to their fulfillment. Finished. Now the Jews kept going even after he died and resurrected and went back to heaven. They kept going. They kept going. So in AD 70, he conquered the whole thing. But they're still going. They're still declaring in the world. They've been going for 2,000 years, seething and seeping and sliming underneath in the undercurrents of humanity. You know, they get bashed down and they rise up again with a different identity. And they get bashed down again like whack-a-mole. They get bashed down, they keep rising up again. We're still here, bastards. We're still here. We're still the reigning supreme bride of the Creator. But they're not. They're divorced. They're divorced. So they're still here doing it today. Yet he fulfilled it all. So after 69 weeks, let's have a look. We've got a 7-year period. See this blue here? This is a 7-year, the last 70th week, 7-year. Yahusha ministers, teaches, and brings the kingdom of heaven. So this is the first half fulfilled in Yahusha's ministry. What about the last half, though? Like, he's gone. He died, he resurrected, and he's gone back into heaven. Nothing happens of any significance for 3.5 years. Now some people say, oh, well, the gospel going out, the good news, the Besorah going out into the world, that's pretty significant. The Spirit falling at Pentecost, that's pretty significant. Nothing happens for 3.5 years. There is no spiritual fulfillment that happens in 3.5 years after Yahusha is cut off in the middle of the week. So we have to go, what's going on here? Where is the last 3.5 years of prophetic fulfillment? Because at the end of this, all those 6 things were happening. At the end of this 3.5 years, all these things are going to happen. Restraining the rebellion, sin finished, corruption purified, bring everlasting righteousness, seal the vision, anoint the set apart. That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened. It did happen in Yahusha himself, but it hasn't happened as a global fulfillment in historic context yet. So the first half of Daniel's 70 week is fulfilled in Yahusha's ministry. This bit here, I am repeating myself because when there's numbers, I know myself, you get confused with the numbers, so I'm repeating myself a lot. I hope you can keep up. The 7-year New Covenant week. I want to explain this a bit more. Daniel's final prophetic week contains 7 years. We dealt with that. 7 years. The last 70th week is 7 years, divided into 2 3.5 years. Yahusha fulfills the first half through his earthly ministry and is cut off midweek. Okay? Followed by a long prophetic pause in which no weeks are counted. No weeks are counted. That leaves the final 3.5 years to still be completed at the time of the end. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. So we've dealt with this. That's fulfilled. Yahusha Messiah, cut off in the middle of the week. That leaves the last 3.5 years. All right? 3.5 years to remain, to be completed at the end. The prophecy pauses and later resumes in the time of the end. So this prophecy is paused. The unfinished half week is the key to Revelation's end time timeline. End time timeline. That's the key to understanding this 3.5 years. Because everything, Daniel gets 69.5 of the prophecy. And then he's told, pens down, close the book, seal it up. You're not allowed to know it. How frustrating would that be? You get given a 70-week prophecy and you only get given 69.5 of the story. Put your pens down. No more writing. You're not allowed to know anymore. That's going to be sealed up. People will come and go and knowledge will increase. And what do we see today about the world? Everybody knows everything. We've got Google and AI, and you can know anything about anybody on the other side of the world. Knowledge has certainly increased. Knowledge is the new form of idolatry because it lifts up yourself. I don't need to ask anybody else anything or rely on anybody else. I've got me, myself, and I. I am the El Supremo. Knowledge has increased. But Revelation reveals the missing half week. So what we didn't find in the book of Daniel, we find in Revelation. The final 3.5 years appears repeatedly. I don't know if this slides talk about it. There's lots of sevens. The book of Revelation is a complete book of sevens. 7 seals, 7 bowls, 7 trumpets, 7 this, 7 that. There's all sevens. The thing you will not find anywhere in the book of Revelation is 7 years. So this I say to all these Christian, Jewish narratives and podcasters and teachers out there that all say there's going to be a 7 years last day fulfillment, 7 years this and 7 years that and 7 years of tribulation, all these things. There is no 7 years in the book of Revelation anywhere. But I'll tell you what there is a whole lot of. 3.5. 3.5 years are everywhere in Revelation. Sometimes it's hidden though. Sometimes it'll say 42 months, which is 3.5 years. Sometimes it'll say 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Other places it'll say times and half a time. That's 3.5 years. So this is a book of 3.5 years. Hidden in a book of sevens. So can you see how if you're blind as a bat, you can just think, oh, it's 7 years. No. The 7-year last 70th week began when Yahusha arrived. He was cut off in the middle of the week. We've got 3.5 years that we're waiting. What's going on? When's it going to happen? Because in this 3.5 years, 2 witnesses are ministering for 1260 days clothed in sackcloth. Well, we know what the 2 witnesses are. It's the word, Yahusha's word, the power of his spirit moving. Everything you watch, read it again. I'm not going into it, but read the 2 witnesses' account in Revelation and then put Yahusha's word and his spirit in there and tell me it hasn't happened. Tell me it's not happening now. Dead in the street, nothing happening. It raises to life. It's happening. What else happened in 3.5 years? The holy city, the set apart city, is trodden underfoot. The holy city is trampled for 42 months. Well, that's all happening, isn't it? Look at the hullabaloo. Look at the insanity and the global situation going on in the Middle East. All because of this happening. The woman is preserved. This is the best one. The woman is preserved in the wilderness. Given 1260 days in the wilderness. The woman, that's the true bride. Hidden in the wilderness. Protected from the dragon. She's protected. She's whisked away into the wilderness where the vomit and filth and the water of his, can't wash her away. She's protected. What does that mean? The beast makes war with the set apart ones for 42 months. Again, 3.5 years. Daniel shows the first half. Revelation exposes the final half. Daniel shows the first half of the last week. He says Messiah the Prince will be cut off in the middle of the week. Revelation exposes the final half of what's going to happen. But given that it hasn't happened yet, in the last 2,000 years, it's either going to happen or it's already started. The climax of the age, the final 3.5 years end with Yahusha's return. So we've dealt pretty intensively with the first 3.5 years. Everybody's still raving and ranting and can't get over what Yahusha and his disciples did. They turned the whole world upside down. That was the first 3.5 years in the book of Acts. So that's dealt with. Let's talk about the final 3.5 years, which end with Yahusha's return. Tribulation intensifies. Global catastrophes and judgments increase. I think we can all agree that's happening right now. Earthquakes and wars and famines and everything like there's never been before. The elect bride is preserved in the wilderness. Is she? Are you part of it? If this is true, you better find out whether you're part of it or not, and how to become the bride, how to become spiritual. Go to our page 1 of the website, and it shows you how to become spiritual through the vein of deliverance. Then Yahusha returns before the end. We may not know the day or the hour, but we can certainly know the times and the seasons. Are you watching and waiting and checking out everything going on, watching the signs of the seasons, preparing, overcoming? You're the bride. We're supposed to be the wise bride with our jars full of oil. The signs suggest the final countdown is underway. All this is happening right now. Thousands dying every day of something. Both Daniel and Revelation agree the final half week is the missing key. The last 3.5 years is the missing key. Daniel shows the first half, Revelation reveals the final half. So, we've got the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. I'm not going to go through this. We've already been through this, mate. Yeah, let's get on with it. The 70th week ends in judgment before the second coming. Alahim set-apart justice is fulfilled. That's what's happening in the world right now. Yahusha's set-apart justice. Let's deal with the woman in the wilderness, because that's really important. Revelation 12 shows the woman fleeing into the wilderness, where she is preserved for 60 days. 3.5 years. So all these 3.5 years are bookended at the end of time, at the end before Yahusha comes back. Anytime it's talking about a 3.5 year period, it's the last end of the timeline. It's bookended right up here. So Revelation shows that the woman fleeing into the wilderness, again giving us the final 3.5 year period. The dragon rages and persecutes her, but the bride is not abandoned. She is given a place of preparation and protection, a place of preparation and protection where she can be matured and refined and bloom where she's planted in the protection and safety of a place, a quarry, a home quarry. That's where the final preparation of stones are being honed and shined and shaped. While the world is collapsing under judgment, Yahusha is simultaneously refining and preserving his set-apart people. This is probably one of the most important bits, because that involves you. It involves me. What are we supposed to be doing while we see all this catastrophe happening out there? Being refined, putting on the armour, putting on the clothing of love. The woman in the wilderness for 3.5 years. So we know. Woman flees into the wilderness, preserved for 3.5 years. Dragon rages, bride is not abandoned. So really just putting all this into pictures, awaiting the glorious return of the King. So the 2 witnesses in the holy city, Revelation 11 opens the final countdown. The holy city is trodden underfoot. 2 witnesses for 3.5 years, clothed in sackcloth. 2 witnesses prophesy. Holy cities trodden underfoot. 2 witnesses prophesy. 3.5 years. This belongs in the final half week. Short season, great purpose. Yahusha testifies while judgment advances. This is all the Word. The Word was dead, and humanity is rejoicing that the Word is dead. Anytime something that involves the Word gets crushed, humanity is rejoicing. Usually the only things you hear about that involve the Word are some kind of religion. And anytime you hear of some kind of religion crumbling, everybody rejoices, because look at what religion is. But the Word has definitely been crumbled and dead in the street. But in these last years, Yahusha is awakening the Word. He's bringing it back to life in his chosen bride. It's living and active in his chosen bride. She's being trained and hidden in the safety and secret of the wilderness to be alive in the Word. The Word, through the Spirit and power, is coming to life in the bride again. So this is happening. So don't be looking for Moses and Elijah. It's happening. You've got to put your spiritual eyes on. Scripture is written in a metaphor, Judgment and witness run together in the final 3.5 years. The beast is happening in the last 3.5 years. Given authority, well, I think we can all agree the beast is running rampant right now. The beast makes war with the set apart ones. People are being killed. Look at the pressure that you're going through to overcome. The beast is running this world through the billionaires, the oligarch, It's all happening. Now AI's on the scene. And I'm not saying you can't use AI as a helpful research tool, but I'm just saying look at what they're planning to do with everything. They want to implant chips. They want to live forever. They've got plans. They're building bunkers underground for a global catastrophe, which they're causing. But they know something's coming. Are they going to be able to reign and conquer and protect themselves when the Reapers come, when Yahusha comes and frackles this whole dimension? Interesting though, the final half week has a fixed limit. We don't know what it is though, apart from the fact that it says 3.5 years. But he's going to come back earlier. He says he's going to come back earlier. The beast is not eternal. Yahusha has already set its limit. He knows when he's coming back. And just for more evidence, we already know Matthew 24, birth pains. Yahusha told us what the end would look like. Wars and rumours of wars, nation against nation, famines, earthquakes, pestilence, lawlessness will abound. Love will grow cold, great tribulation, the signs of the Son of Man appearing, all happening in the world. Birth pains intensify before Yahusha's return. The signs do not calm down. They intensify towards the prophetic climax. The world is not going to get better. It's getting worse and worse and worse. The world is in prophetic convergence. Global catastrophes are pushing towards climax. All these things are happening. Creation groaning. Humanity cannot solve its own corruption. Lawlessness, deception, self-worship. It's all about self-worship, isn't it? Look at all this. Families are crumbling. Children are starving while parents are just on drugs. Look at all this. But they're still taking Insta model photos and, they're all still in there worshipping themselves. Unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. So I don't really care what you declare about the Feast of Tabernacles and what you declare about 2027 being a Jubilee year or, all these things that point to 2027, which they do. 2027, a lot of stuff prophetically is supposed to be happening by all the know-it-all people. But despite that, he says, unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. That is why you cannot put a pin on the calendar of any kind of date. Because, he came on every other feast and did everything else on every feast and appointed time like he should have. But he says, unless those days were shortened, he's going to come back earlier because mankind will destroy themselves if not, And he wants everybody to know that it's not you guys that are going to destroy yourself. It's me. We will be giving eye will see, every eye will see, every heart will know, every tongue will confess. Yahusha is Alahim. The whole world will know that it's him right before their eyes as they get frackled up. The world is not stabilizing, it's moving towards prophetic climax. The hour is late, the signs agree the king is coming. So the 70th week ends in judgment. The entire prophetic structure begins with 70 weeks, equaling 490 years, moves through the 69 weeks to Messiah, continues through Yahusha's first 3.5 years, pauses. We've got nearly a 2,000-year pause here, and then resumes for the final 3.5 years. That final half week ends in judgment immediately before Yahusha returns. From the decree to rebuild Jerusalem all the way to the second coming, the prophecy is moving towards one appointed conclusion. The 70th week ends in judgment. 490 years, 70 weeks ends before the second coming. So we can see all this happening. Messiah was cut off. There's a big gap, nearly 2,000 years before the end. Let's talk about the new creation deliverance and how you can get into that bridal company that gets filtered or transitions or transforms into whisked off into a wilderness location. The prophetic week is not only about destruction, might look like it when you look out there, because everything's been moving. The seals were opened nearly 2,000 years ago, and Those seals have been intensifying, the horsemen going out and judging, and wars and famines and pestilence. It's all been intensifying the last 2,000 years. So it might look like destruction very much, but it also points towards Yahusha's new creation deliverance. Through his blood comes forgiveness. Through his word comes cleansing. Through his spirit comes new life. And through his fire comes purification and refinement. While the old creation moves towards judgment, which it is, Yahusha is preparing a transformed people who belong to the new creation. Belong. Blood bought, owned, love slaves, bought with a price. And we are belonging to the new creation, adopted in to a new reign, a new family. Our old families have let us down. Yahusha never lets us down. So there's a new creation deliverance. And this is all happening in this last 3.5 years too. That's why we believe that this has happened. This has started. It's about to finish. The decree went out. He told us a few years ago that we're in the last 3.5 years. And then 2 years ago, we're in the last year. And then last year. And then we're in the last year, guys. I still believe it's 2027 that all this is going to happen. But as I said, it could happen earlier. We're only halfway through just 2026. Are you ready? You've got to get into the new creation through the vein of spirit and fire. This is the new covenant week. Remember, it says he will make a firm covenant for the last week. For that last 7-year period, he will make a firm covenant. Not the old covenant, which they're all pumping and peddling, trying to take us back to all the time and distract us. He will make a firm covenant with his blood. And he was cut off in the middle of that week. So see that? This is the firm covenant that he's making. And he sealed it with his own blood. And we're right at the pointy bit here of this last 3.5 years. I believe this wholeheartedly. My whole life is being geared and not relieving stress and worry, because I know we're at this pointy bit. What on earth is there to do and worry about than getting in and being refined? Yeah, this is where we are, guys. See my mouth here at the pointy bit. The clock is about to strike midnight. We've got to get blood forgiven. We've got to be cleansed by his word, be in his word constantly, feeding this seed that was been planted, the spiritual seed of eternal life in us, the fire purification. This week points to new creation deliverance from sin, set apart in truth, empowered by the Spirit, prepared by fire for his glorious return. You can't even come into this if you don't believe Yahusha is Alahim. Who does Revelation say is coming back? Who is it with the new name? Yahusha. It's Yahusha. Come, Yahusha, come. The Spirit and the bride say, come. He is Alahim, seated on the throne in all authority. All the judgments happening in the world right now are because of his decree, because of the seals that he opened as the slain lamb upon his victorious arrival back to the throne. Watch, prepare, overcome. The bride must be awake. We do not know the day or the hour. The time of his coming is unknown. Watch, therefore, that it does not overtake you as a thief in the night. We don't know the day or the hour, guys, but we can know the times and the seasons. So watch. Stay alert. Keep your heart and eyes on Yahusha. Prepare, purify yourself, strengthen, and walk in obedience. Walking in obedience is your true worship. Walking on his word. We've got to overcome everything that wants to come through us. Arrest your thoughts. Faithful until his appearing. Keep your lamp burning. Keep the oil of the Spirit. Don't grow weary. The bridegroom is coming suddenly, gloriously, without delay. The wise are ready when the cry goes out. Those who are awake enter in with him. This is not the time to sleep. It is the time to be ready. Preparing, guys. Yahusha is about to return. The final half week ends with the reigning kingdom. All this is going to happen. The 3.5 years is coming to an end. It began with Yahusha. It's going to end with Yahusha. The final outcome is not Rome. So we don't need to be looking at any global The final outcome is not with Israel either, who's behind all the trouble that's going on in the world today, because she declares, I am not a widow. I am a queen. I am royalty. She's a divorced whorebag. That's what she is. Divorced, cut off. Yahusha is coming back, so we don't have to worry about her or the problems she's caused in the world, because no kingdom is going to succeed. It's only Yahusha's reigning kingdom that's coming. The kingdom of this world have become the kingdom of our Alahim and of his Messiah, Yahusha. He's going to take it all over on, destroy it all and rebuild something brand new. And we'll get to see it, guys. If you get through the vein, you'll get to see the whole purpose and meaning of your life. Behold, he comes with the clouds, and every eye will see him. Yahusha is king. Prepare your hearts, overcome by trusting belief. Trust him for your life, and you'll get to see the culmination. Amazing. Yahusha is about to return, guys. Now, for those of you who like it a bit deeper and it feels like I've glossed over a lot of topics there, just trying to get through it, look at that. We're already on 40 minutes. So we've got other studies there and other videos that you can go into that go over, an hour and a half or more. You can go into all the jots and tittles of all the little bits on the timeline. But for now, we need to get through. We believe here at the Behaviour Revolution that Yahusha is about to come back right now. We believe that the 3.5 years started, three years ago or so. That was when he started to wake us up. That is when he started to talk to Christopher about the vein of deliverance. And I tell you what, through personal experience, when you go into that vein, you might think you've been in the Word for decades and decades. When you come into Yahusha is Alahim, which most people won't even accept. Even those who peddle the name of Yahusha won't accept that he's Alahim, singular, seated on the throne in all power and glory. They won't face it. So what do they know about his true forgiveness? What do they know about the power of his word coming through them? How can they experience what the two witnesses, the Spirit and power? They don't have his Spirit baptism. They're declaring that they're spiritual. They're declaring that they're the bride. They don't even come into the deliverance vein. They don't have his fire. They don't want to talk about arresting thoughts. They don't want to talk about being flogged and rebuked and chastised. None of them will talk about this because they don't know it. They don't experience it. They don't experience his fire. They're too good for that. They're worshipping themselves. They're writing books for themselves. So are they the bride? Are they protected in the wilderness? Or are they just like the world, crackling up, frackling up, dying of all sorts of diseases? All the believers out there, are dying of something, suffering something. When you come into the vein of deliverance, you are protected. Guys, understand, we're at the end. That little pointy bit, we're at the end. Yahusha is about to stand up, gather his troop, his bridegrooms. Come on, groomsmen, we're coming back to pick up his bride. The groom comes for the bride, not the other way around. The bride does not decide anything. The groom is in charge, and he is delayed currently. But he's told us he's coming back when all these signs in the world are happening. These signs have intensified in the last few years. And you might say they've been intensifying for hundreds of years, but not like the last couple of years. No way. Just take a look. Go into YouTube and take a look at what's happening in the world. That's enough for this video, guys. Yahusha is about to return. It is imperative that you put your eyes to the eternal city that's coming, whose builder and maker is Alahim. Get ready. The clock is about to strike midnight. Love you guys. Get into the love. Get into Yahusha's love.
Where is he who I close my eyes to see? Will I ever know the sweet hello that's meant for all?